Welcome back to the channel, fellow Port Charles addicts. It is a gloomy, emotionally exhausting day in the soap world, and we have to talk about the absolute tragedy that just... Grab some tissues because we are diving deep into the wreck. The deafening clang of a maximum security cell door echoing in the dark. The suffocating, heavy silence of a nursery that will never see a father hold his son again. Port Charles just tilted on its axis in the most violent way possible, and the irreversible finality of the choices made this week is going to bury these characters. I literally cannot even process what I am sitting here staring at a blank screen, my hands are actually shaking, and I just need to vent. I cannot believe they actually killed off Curtis Ashford. I mean, are you kidding me right now? After everything this man has survived, after the pool shooting, the paralysis, the endless drama with Portia's lies about Trina's paternity, the brutal trial, they put him in a cell with Jen Sidwell and just let him be slaughtered. I am so incredibly angry, but at the same time, the drama is so good that I can't look away. But seriously, Curtis deserved better. He deserved to hold his newborn son, Desmond. Let's break down the sheer brutality of what happened in Pentonville. We all knew that putting Curtis in the same cell as Sidwell was a ticking time. Sidwell is an absolute monster. He is a cornered rat who has nothing to lose. So, of course, Sidwell corners Curtis in that tiny, suffocating cell and demands that Curtis use his old Port Charles underworld and police connections to orchestrate a prison. And to make sure Curtis complies, Sidwell does the one thing you never do to an Ashford. He explicitly threatens to have his outside guys go after Portia and little baby Desmond. And what does Curtis do? Because he is Curtis, because he has the heart of a hero and the instincts of a cop, he refuses. He absolutely refuses to let this international terrorist dictate his life or put his family in the crosshairs of a breakout scheme. Curtis tries to alert the guards. He tries to do the right thing. But before security can even intervene, Sidwell flies into a homicidal rage. The brawl that followed was it was hard to watch. Sidwell brutally murdered Curtis right there on the cold concrete floor of Pentonville. I was screaming at my television. Where are the guards? Where is the warden? But it was too late. Curtis Ashford is gone. I have been watching General Hospital for years, and I have seen some tragic deaths. Remember when they killed off Courtney? Or when we lost Morgan? But this one feels so incredibly dark because of the absolute tragedy surrounding it. Curtis literally just had a baby. He just had Desmond. He was fighting so hard to stay in that little boy's life. He rejected a 2-year plea deal specifically because he didn't want to be separated from his son and let Isaiah step into the daddy spot. He took a gamble on a trial to win his freedom, and instead, it cost him his life. Which brings me to the person who I am currently furious with, but also profoundly heartbroken for, Portia Robinson. Can we talk about Portia for a second? I've been so incredibly frustrated with her character. She has been acting so self-righteous, so vengeful, so completely blinded by her own ego. When Dante showed up at her door to deliver the news, oh my god, the way she just completely collapsed. The realization washing over her face was a masterclass in acting, But the guilt she is feeling right now, it is 100% justified. Let's rewind a bit. Portia is the reason Curtis was in that maximum security facility to begin with. Yes, Curtis punched Isaiah. Yes, he ruined Isaiah's hand. But Jordan practically begged Portia to soften her testimony. Jordan told her to think of the baby, to frame it as a domestic misunderstanding, to keep Curtis out of prison so he could be a father. And Portia? Portia stubbornly, arrogantly refused. She took the stand and nailed Curtis to the wall. She painted him as a violent aggressor. She wanted to punish him. She wanted to make him pay for hurting her new boyfriend. And now she realizes that her vengeful, bitter testimony directly sealed his. She didn't just send him to prison, she sent him to the slaughter. If she had just swallowed her pride, if she had just listened to Jordan, Curtis might have gotten probation. He might have been home, holding Desmond. Instead, he was locked in a cage with a psychopath. Portia's hubris literally killed the man she used to love. I don't know how a character comes back from that kind of psychological devastation. I really don't. Wait, I am getting ahead of myself, because the writers decided to twist the knife. Just when you think Portia has hit rock bottom, Martin Gray. Poor Martin, looking completely defeated, hands Portia a letter. A tear-soaked, crumpled piece of paper that Curtis managed to write and smuggle out to his lawyer right before the staged brawl. It's almost like Curtis knew. He knew Sidwell was unhinged, he knew his time might be up, and he wanted to leave something behind for his family. The contents of that letter broke me. I am not ashamed to admit I was sobbing on my... Curtis didn't write a letter full of anger. He didn't blame Portia for putting him in there. Instead, he wrote about his boundless, infinite love for baby. He wrote about how much he wanted to be a father to that little boy, The way he never got to be a father to Trina when she was a baby. And then, the absolute kicker, he forgave Portia. He explicitly told her that he forgives her for all her past lies, for the trial, for everything, and he hopes she raises their son. Do you understand how devastating that is? Forgiveness from a dead man is the heaviest burden you can possibly. If Curtis had been angry, Portia could have justified her act. She could have stayed mad. But his pure, selfless forgiveness completely shattered her. She fell to the floor clutching that piece of paper, and I honestly felt bad. I hate what she did. But watching a woman realize she destroyed her own family out of spite is just harrowing television. And where does this leave Isaiah? Oh, this is going to be a disaster. Portia cannot even look at Isaiah right now. Think about it from her perspective. Her entire crusade to put Curtis behind bars was supposedly about getting justice for Isaiah's surgery. She burned her family to the ground to defend this new man. But now, every time she looks at Isaiah's face, every time she looks at his injured hand, all she is going to see is Curtis's blood. Isaiah's presence in her house is now a cruel, living reminder of her own self. She sacrificed the father of her children for a guy she just started dating. I predict Portia is going to completely ice Isaiah out. There is no way their relationship survives. How can you lie in bed with a man knowing that your defense of him led to your ex-husband being murdered by a terrorist in a prison cell? You can't. Portia is going to push him away, and Isaiah is going to be left wondering what he did wrong, even though he is just collateral damage in Portia's tragic. Okay, back to the absolute most heartbreaking part of this entire Trina. My poor, sweet, endlessly traumatized Trina Robinson. Hasn't this girl suffered enough? She lost Spencer. She dealt with Esme's reign of terror. She finally finds out Curtis is her biological father. They finally build this beautiful, complicated relationship, and now he is ripped away from her in the most violent way imaginable. I am so incredibly angry for Trina. Trina had literally just made the healthy, mature decision to set boundaries. She told her parents she needed space from their toxic drama. She was trying to focus on her art, her music showcase with Gio, her own life. And then the news hits Port Charles. The scene where Trina confronts Portia is going down in General Hospital history. Give the actress an Emmy right now. The raw, guttural emotion in that room was palpable. Trina didn't hold back. She unleashed months, years of pent-up fury on her mother. And she was absolutely right. Trina bitterly accused Portia of using exaggerated, fake testimony to nail Curtis to the wall. She screamed at her mother, asking how she could possibly throw the father of her children to the wolves just to settle it. You killed him. That line is going to haunt Portia forever. Trina looked her mother dead in the eye and held her entirely responsible for Curtis. Portia tried to defend herself, of course. Tried to stammer out some pathetic excuse about wanting justice for Isaiah, about how Curtis was out of control. But Trina wasn't having a single second. Why should she? Portia has a history of lying and manipulating situations to fit her narrative. She lied about Trina's paternity for 2 decades, and now, her manipulation has resulted in a body. Trina permanently disowning Portia was the only logical outcome. The way Trina coldly turned her back and walked out, vowing to cut all ties with her mother forever. It gave me chills. The mother-daughter bond is completely, utterly severed. I don't see how they ever repair them. Portia didn't just lose Curtis. She lost Trina, too. And honestly, she deserves to lose her. You cannot play God with people's lives in a courtroom and expect your family to just smile and nod when the consequences. So now we have Portia, standing alone in an empty, echoing room. The silence in that house must be deafening. She is holding a newborn baby who will never know his father, clutching a letter of forgiveness she doesn't deserve, alienated from her daughter, and unable to even look at her boyfriend. The complete and total collapse of the Ashford Robinson family is a masterclass in tragic storytelling. Portia thought she was the righteous victim in all of this, but she ended up being the architect of her own total destruction. I have to wonder what Jen Sidwell's endgame is now. He killed a high-profile inmate. He murdered a former cop. The PCPD and the WSB are going to come down on Pentonville like a ton of bricks. Sidwell thinks he is untouchable, but you don't just murder Sonny Corinthos' former associate and get away with it. Sonny may be out of the mob, but he still has reach, and he respects it. I wouldn't be surprised if Sidwell's days are completely numbered. And what about Trina? She is so vulnerable right now. We know she has a stalker lurking in the shadows. With Curtis gone, her primary protector is out of the picture. Marshall and Stella are going to try to shield her, but they are going to be drowning in their own grief over losing their son. Trina is going to spiral. She might lean heavily on Gio, or she might push everyone away and isolate herself, making her the perfect target for whoever is watching. I am terrified for what comes next. I can't even begin to imagine how Marshall and Stella are going to react. Stella has been the rock of the Ashford family for decades. She was just sitting on the couch with Marshall, worrying that Trina might cut Portia out of her life. She was worried about the family fracture. But she never could have anticipated that the fracture would come from Curtis coming home in a pine box. Marshall just got back to town to meet his new grandson, Desmond. He walked into the hospital radiating joy, ready to embrace this new chapter. And now he has to bury his son. The cruelty of that timing is just staggering. The Ashford family has endured so much trauma, but this is the ultimate breaking point. The ripple effects of this are going to touch everyone. Look at Jordan. Jordan loved Curtis. Even though they weren't together, she still cared for him. She literally kissed him goodbye before he went to Pentonville. She warned Portia. She begged Portia to stand down. When Jordan finds out that Curtis was murdered in a cell because Portia wouldn't listen to reason, the animosity between those two women is going to reach new. Jordan is a former cop and commissioner. She knows what goes on in Pentonville. She knew the risks, and Portia ignored them. The guilt and rage are going to consume this entire town. As I sit here typing this, I am just overwhelmed by how fast everything. One minute we are watching a tense courtroom drama, and the next we are dealing with a brutal prison assassination. It is classic General Hospital, but it hurt. It really, really hurt. We have to brace ourselves for the funeral episodes because those are going to be absolute tearjerkers. I don't think I am emotionally prepared to watch Trina stand over her father. What do you guys think Sidwell's ultimate punishment will be, and can Portia ever be redeemed? Drop your wildest theories in the comments below, hit that subscribe button, and let's grieve together.